Muddy Mayhem, the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week, we'll bring you 2 stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Janet O'Brien.
I'm Tracy Laricha.
Hello!
Hello! Janet, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Excellent.
Excellent. Have you had a good week so far?
It really has been kind of a good week so far. Nothing major happening, which is kind of a nice thing for a change.
Right.
And so just, getting into spring.
Right.
Got to go and visit with Ryder's dad for his birthday.
Nice.
And now we're here and ready to kind of get into the mud. I know we both have dense stories. What's your week been like?
Oh, it was a good weekend. We both went to the birthday party for our friend Rob.
Indeed.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Happy pirate birthday, Rob.
Yeah, he celebrated his 50th. It was a lot of fun.
We ate the last of the pirate potluck leftovers this afternoon for lunch.
Yeah, I've had the jambalaya twice this week already.
I had to take a nap. I finished my plate, and then I'm like, I gotta lay down for a minute. So good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But we both have some pretty interesting stories this week. I think
Me too.
both of ours are a little dense, so we'll see how this goes.
Absolutely. Well, let's get in the mud.
Okay, let's get muddy. Okay, so my story, we're going to start off with, have you heard of Michael Swango?
I don't think so. The name maybe sounds a little familiar, but I don't know the story.
Okay, so Michael Swango, he was born October 21st in 1954 in Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
They ended up moving to Quincy, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
He was the middle child of Muriel and John Virgil Swango. John was his father. He was a career United States Army officer.
Okay.
So they ended up moving around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When he returned from Vietnam, his father, he became like a really bad alcoholic. And he was also super depressed.
So a lot of PTSD, but it isn't being treated.
Right. And so this ended up affecting his parents' marriage. And so Muriel and John ended up divorcing when he returned from Vietnam.
Oh.
Michael Swango, he did not see his father much after they split.
Okay.
So he ended up having a very close relationship with his mother.
Mm-hmm.
They continued to live in Quincy. He was valedictorian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he graduated valedictorian in 1972 from the Quincy Catholic Boys High School.
So he's like a family hero.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of messed up at home, so he feels like he has to excel.
Yes, and then he ended up he played the clarinet in the band at his school. After high school, he actually went into the Marine Corps, kind of trying to follow the footsteps of his father.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't work out very well. I mean, nothing bad happened. He just wasn't great at it. Like, he ended up going to training in San Diego, but then in 1980, he received an honorable discharge.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So he's entitled to the benefits and...
Right, exactly. So then, he didn't see any action during his service. But he did figure out that when he was in the Marines, how much he really appreciated physical exercise. So that was like a thing for him. He liked to be fit. He liked physical exercise and being physical. He ended up going to Quincy University for college, and while he was there, he was often jogging or doing calisthenics, stuff like that. So, he's still kind of keeping on the whole...
Well, that has an effect on your mental health also.
Absolutely, absolutely. He graduated, summa cum laude?
Summa cum laude.
Yeah, and he was given the American Chemistry Society Award.
Oh, wonderful.
So he graduated from there, and then he decided to pursue medical school.
Oh, okay.
So he ended up going to the Southern Illinois University of Medicine, SIU. So he was going there, and at SIU, this is when he started to show some troubling behavior.
Okay.
So, we already know he's super smart.
Right.
He had nothing really weird. It just, he went to school and stuff like that. So he started to show a little bit of troubling behavior. He was a brilliant student, but he seemed more interested in working as an ambulance attendant rather than studying. So,
okay. Is it that he just wants to help people, or is there something?
It goes a little weird.
Okay.
He became fascinated with dying patients.
Oh. All right, then.
So he was more interested in doing the ambulance thing, and he would get really excited if somebody was passing, like physically dying, like he wanted to be there for it.
He wants to...
I don't know what's going on. Nobody really understands.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Then during this time, he noticed that when he was assigned patients, the patients would end up coding, and 5 of them ended up dying.
He likes to see the light go out of their eyes.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so this is not going very well. His lack of studying caught up with him, and so they've figured out that he was not actually going to the thing. He was, when you do you're supposed to go and, act as an intern or whatever. He was not doing that. He would write it down saying, "Oh, I'm definitely doing that," but he was not doing that.
And there's no kind of accountability for this.
Yeah, so they were like, they had a meeting and they were ready to throw him out. They're just like, I know you're he was only a month away from graduating medical school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. He got that far, a month away. And they're like,
wow.
This isn't good, and you've been lying to us saying that you've been doing the thing and you're not. And so they basically... somebody on the board decided to let him stay, but he had to stay another year. So he ended up graduating. I mean, he was still good in his classes. He just started to kind of slough off, especially when he was like, you know what I mean? Just not good. So because he was faking his rotation at the OBGYN facility, because that's where he was supposed to be working.
Oh.
So they ended up giving him a second chance, and he ended up graduating a year later. Now, the dean of the college was not, he's like, hey, smart, but there's something wrong with him. And so the dean actually wrote, a letter going,
there's something that we need to look
at. Yeah, I'm not gonna put my name down saying, yes, I think you should, when you go in to get your residency somewhere, I'm not gonna sign off on that.
Oh.
He was just like, the dean could tell there was something off. And this is just, from medical school. So when it comes to, we get to his internship, he receives the poor evaluation from the dean of SIU. He ended up still, even though he had a bad evaluation from the dean, he received a surgical internship at Ohio State University.
Oh, okay.
OSI Medical Center in 1983. And it was going to be followed up with a residency in neurosurgery.
Oh, dear. Okay.
At Rhodes Hall at Ohio State, the nurses noticed healthy patients were dying mysteriously with alarming frequency.
Where he is.
Yes. Each time Michael was on the floor as an intern.
Oh, my gosh.
A nurse caught him injecting medicine into a patient, and then the patient became strangely ill later. The nurses reported their concerns to the administrators, and the nurses were told they were being paranoid.
Well, to be fair, Janet, women are very emotional. And sometimes they are just kind of off the charts about things.
Exactly.
They should just stand back and let these men do their jobs.
His work, however, he ended up he was investigated, but he was cleared in 1984 for this because they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anything weird with the medication. They were just dying, so they couldn't figure it out. His work, however, started to become sloppy, and so instead of the college before the Ohio State University, before they decided to just make him leave. They're like, okay, you can finish your internship, but we're not going to expand it to your residency. When you're done with your internship, you're done.
Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we will do what is contracted.
But we're not extending the residency anymore. You're on your own there. So once he finished his internship, he was no longer going to be with them. In July of 1984, he came back to Quincy, Illinois, and worked as an emergency medical technician with Adams County Ambulance Corps.
Okay.
He had previously been fired by another ambulance service in Springfield for, hear me out, making a heart patient drive to the hospital.
What? Wait, he's in an ambulance.
Yes.
They made someone else drive the
Yes!
ambulance?
I think. Or he just, I don't.
How does that even happen?
I don't know.
Isn't the whole point of an ambulance that you don't drive yourself?
Nah, just drive yourself. It'll be fine. So anyway, after he started, the paramedics on staff noticed if they started. Now, I did watch some videos on this, and apparently the paramedics that he worked with in Quincy, Illinois, at the second ambulance job, Adams County, they actually worked with him for a while, and they're like, he was really good at what he did. He was good at his job.
Sure.
However, they started to notice some things. The paramedics on staff noticed if Michael prepared the coffee or brought food in, several of them would get violently ill with no cause that they could see.
Well, maybe he just made bad coffee, Janet. I mean, come on, haven't we all worked with that person? Also, I swear to heaven above, I shut every single door before we started this podcast.
And there's a dog.
And Lou is right here. So sorry if you hear a little bit of clinking and clacking. And she, let's just ignore her.
Right.
All right. Sorry.
So, that's okay. October of 1984. He was arrested by the Quincy Police Department for finding arsenic and other poisons in his possession.
Oh.
Because, the paramedics that he was working with, they kept getting sick. And so they were like, we got to check this out.
What's happening here?
Right.
Yeah.
So August 23rd, 1985, he was convicted of aggravated battery for poisoning coworkers, and he received 5 years in prison. He only served 2 of those.
Okay.
So the prosecutors in Franklin County, Ohio, thought of bringing charges of murder and attempted murder, but again, there was no physical evidence.
Right. So there's nothing. I'm just...
Yeah. It's there's something clearly attached to him, and they're
completely.
and they can't seem to catch him. So in 1989, he's released from prison. He worked as a counselor after he got out of prison at the State Career Development Center. He ended up moving out to Newport News, Virginia. I have no idea. How do you get out of jail and then work for as a career develop? I'm still very confused by this.
They had their very own catalog, though. Do you remember getting the Newport News catalog?
Yes,
yeah, like in the 80s?
Yes. They found out after they ended up forcing him out of the Career Development Center because they caught him apparently he was living in the basement, in a room. So he's sleeping there. And then they found the scrapbook that he was keeping of disasters. Mm-hmm. Now, this whole scrapbooking thing where he scrapbooks when disasters and stuff, this started back in grade school.
No.
His mom kind of was oh, he likes a thing, and just kind of let him do that.
Oh, he just loves it when a whole bunch of people die. There's nothing to be worried about here.
No.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
And nothing.
So the job, he becomes, now he gets another job as a lab technician for ATI Coal.
Okay.
During this time, several employees needed medical attention for persistent and increasing stomach pains.
Is he...
So he's poisoning more coworkers.
It's one thing to steal somebody's Diet Coke out of the fridge, but it's another to, like...
This is a pattern.
Poison them.
Exactly. Nobody dies. While he is...
Oh, good.
He ends up meeting a nurse by the name of Kristen Lynn Kenny. She's a nurse at Riverside Hospital. And they end up falling in love.
This is going to go so well for her.
Oh, yeah, so well.
Where is she registered?
He resigned his position at work to seek a new position as a doctor. So he's like, okay, I want to be a doctor. That's my goal now. Because I really haven't, he got in a lot of trouble never got his residency. So he's like, okay, now I gotta try to do the doctor thing. So when he resigned, he ends up changing his name in 1991 to Daniel J. Adams. So he is trying to cut ties with...
So he changes his name. He's been fired from a few jobs, and he's getting ready to get married to this girl who is like, I love him. He's going to be a doctor. Like,
no.
Oh, my word.
So he tried to get residency at Ohio Valley Medical Center, but he ended up not getting that.
On what grounds?
In July of 1992, he started working at Sanford United States, Medical Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay.
In both cases, how he ended up applying for Ohio, which he didn't get, but ended up getting Sanford. In both cases, he forged legal documents to try to reestablish himself as a physician. He also forged a fact sheet from the Illinois Department of Corrections, where he was arrested, saying he received 6 months of prison for fist fighting.
Oh!
So he's forged that as well. And then dropping it to a misdemeanor, from a felony to a misdemeanor. And as most states they won't grant a medical license to a violent felon.
Completely. No, as you should not.
Exactly. He ended up forging a restoration of civil rights, and it was supposedly a letter from the governor of Virginia stating that he could restore his right to vote and serve on a jury.
Okay. Because
once you go into jail, you kind of lose those rights.
Right.
For a felon. Then he...
That whole pesky felony thing.
I know, right? It just gets in the way. Then he established a great reputation while he was working at Sanford.
Okay.
Because again, he's really, really
so
smart.
All right, so maybe there is rehabilitation. I don't feel good about this, but sure. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now.
And Sanford was fine with him. They thought he was great and all that. And then he goes to attempt to join the American Medical Association, as you should, because, doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the AMA, they end up conducting a background check, and they find out about the poisoning.
Oops.
So that's not good. And again, he's still working at Sanford. But then on Thanksgiving Day,
Go on.
the Discovery Channel, which I tend to watch a lot because there might be true crime on it. Have you ever heard of the show called The Justice Files?
I don't think so, but
okay.
No.
It's an older show.
Okay.
And they end up doing a piece because, almost 10 years have passed at this point. They do a segment on him about the first time when he poisoned those people. And they just replay it. And so all of a sudden, the hospital's getting reports going, "Hi,
we just watched this.
That's my doctor."
I was home with my neighbor, eating pizza rolls, drinking a bottle of rosé, and we saw this.
Right? So amid the AMA report finding out about the poisoning and the show segment, Sanford ended up just firing him.
Oh,
They're just like, yeah, no, you can't be here. When that happened, his wife, she ended up leaving him and going back to Virginia. And apparently while she was with him, she kept getting these crazy migraines. And then when she left them, they just stopped.
Stopped. Was it where they were living? I mean, was there mold? Did the neighbor have, like, some kind of a candle that was... Oh, no?
No.
It's that her husband was a murdering POS?
And might have arsenic in his, cabinet. What? So anyway, at this point, after he gets fired, the American Medical Association just completely loses track of him. I mean, he hasn't done anything that they can get him for, but they've lost track of him.
But you can't keep tabs on this. Sorry, I was very shrill right there, but come on.
I know.
You can't keep tabs on this?
So then he ends up getting another residency at Stony Brook University School of Medicine in New York.
Okay.
He did his first rotation at the Internal Medicine Department of the Veteran Affairs Medical Center in Northport, New York. And then guess what happened? Patients started dying for no reason.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, like dying how?
They can't figure it out. They're perfectly okay.
Hit by cars?
No.
I just, like, what happens here? I'm guessing.
4 months later, his wife, who had left him, she died of suicide. I guess, and then they did an autopsy, and guess what they found in her? Arsenic. Yeah. Now, I think she actually did commit suicide, but,
You think so?
Yeah, but she had arsenic in her.
Do you think it was guilt?
I have no
Or,
idea.
like, knowledge? Or do you think it was just, like, being with this banana pants?
That's very possible. It could have been all of the above. I did not go into that. There
Okay.
was a lot in the story, and I'm like,
Fair enough.
So anyway, so she passes away, and then her mother is like, you know what? And this is why I think she committed suicide. Her mom's like, we're going to do some research into him because of the whole arsenic thing.
Right.
And so
Yeah, the whole murder thing.
Right. So she's horrified to find out, the mother is horrified to find out that he is still allowed to practice medicine with all of this stuff
Completely. If you
happening.
think that he is killing people, then how is he allowed to still be a healer?
I know. So the mother ends up contacting one of her daughter's old friends that she used to work with at Sanford. Sanford alerted the dean from the college that he graduated from that was just like something wrong with him. And then the dean of what is this place called? At Sanford. Oh, right. Robert Talley at Stanford called the dean of Stony Brooks, where he was
Right.
at, and they questioned the head of the psychiatry department, and that they kept pushing him, and then they admitted that Michael had already admitted to them that he had poisoned people, but they just let him on anyway.
Wow.
So
I've already poisoned people. Like, oh, that's fine. Welcome aboard.
I know, right?
Here's your sweatshirt and your, like, university coffee mug, and here's your desk, and...
So the head of the psychiatry department and that dean of Stony Brook, they both they were forced to resign because of that.
Oh.
They were just like, no, what are you
You can't
doing?
do that!
Right.
No, you cannot be that person.
So before they end up resigning from Stony, the dean, his name was Jordan Cohen, before he resigned, he sent a warning out to 125 medical schools and 1,000 teaching hospitals.
Good for him.
About blacklisting him from getting into medical
So
residency.
this is our hero here.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I know I'm resigning, but I gotta do something.
I'm going to burn it down on the way out.
Yeah,
Right,
like-
because this is bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
People ignoring it. So, since the latest thing happened at the Veterans Affairs Facility, because of the things happening there, it got the feds involved.
Okay.
So now we're backtracking a little to where he was, where they're like, okay, now we got the feds involved. He ended up dropping out of sight until like mid-1994. The FBI found him living in Atlanta, working as a chemist at a computer equipment company wastewater facility, whatever that is. There's a lot of words in there.
Well, the best people work in IT.
Right. The company was alerted by the FBI, and then that company ended up firing him because he lied on his resume.
Okay.
So then the FBI were like, okay, how are we going to get him? Because we still can't prove that he's actually killed anyone because they haven't done any autopsies correctly. It seems like things that they should have found, it just got lost.
They didn't.
So the FBI is like, okay, how are we going to get him in jail? Because we got to get him to stop doing this. So the FBI ended up going out. They got a warrant out for charging him for using fraudulent credentials to work in the hospital. So that's how they got him for this time around. November 1994, he fled the country and settled in Zimbabwe.
No, wait. So this is like he's escaped twice now, right?
Yes.
And now he's in the wind in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, so they're trying to go after him for the fraudulent credentials, and then he just takes off.
No way.
So they're not able to arrest him the second time because, so he ends up going to Zimbabwe. He uses forged documents, again, to get a job at, it's MNENE Lutheran Mission Hospital.
Okay.
The patients began dying mysteriously.
Shocking. Now, there's no extradition, I guess.
Not yet.
Okay.
The medical director ended up suspending him because he was like, okay, there's something going on. So this medical director, they were, you got to think, during this time, the hospital in Zimbabwe is like, oh my God, an American doctor, he's here to help us because we are desperate.
What year is this again?
1994.
94. Okay,
desperate for doctors. And then and then the patients start dying. And I was watching a video, and there was this great video where one of the ladies that he poisoned in that hospital, she ended up surviving, and she got the same runaround. She would she saw him come in and inject something, and she was like, yeah, I could feel half of her body
something
went
was
new.
terrible.
Yeah. And they fucking, she told the staff, and they just said, oh no, you were probably just, they just ignored her. She's still alive, thankfully.
Goodness.
So they end up dying mysteriously. He gets suspended. Since there was no adequate autopsies, no firm conclusions were drawn.
How many times does it take before they
fail
to put this man in front of patients again?
Jesus. So Michael, he ends up hiring a lawyer by the name of David Coulthard, so he could return to the medical practice, because he still wanted to be in medical practice so he could, easily kill people. He appealed to the authorities, and the hospital, another hospital let him. He wanted to basically go to this other hospital, become an intern, and work as a volunteer.
I'm sorry, was the guy's name Coulthard?
I know!
That let him, get back in front of fucking patients?
Coltart, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that tracks. Go on.
A surgical resident at this new hospital that's, it was called MPILO Hospital Bulawayo. It's BULAWAYO. The surgical resident there suspected there was something going on because, again, more deaths were occurring at this new hospital, second hospital in Zimbabwe, and because he would notice that Michael would be snooping around in areas he's not supposed to be, and he's like, there's something wrong, and people are dying here for no reason. This is not good.
Why are you doing this?
Right. Still no proof.
Yeah.
So he had ended up renting a room from this widowed woman when he was in this area of Zimbabwe, and when she met him, she's like, he was well read, he was really smart, and he seemed very nice, and he lived there for a while, but then she got sick one day,
Oh.
She went to prepare a meal for her and her friend, and they both got really, really, really sick. So she ends up going to a local surgeon doctor, and the doctor, when she starts describing,
It's like, well, you're
checking her out,
poisoned. Right.
yeah, he's like, I have a feeling you were poisoned by arsenic. So they end up taking some strands of her hair to test it.
Okay.
And sure enough, there was toxic levels of arsenic in her hair.
Oh no.
She lived. So then now the Zimbabwe Republic Police, through Interpol, and apparently the FBI had already visited Zimbabwe to interview the doctor and the pathologist who tested the hair, because they're still after him too over here. They're like,
he's getting sloppy.
Yeah, he's getting sloppy. So he sensed the authorities are closing in on him. So he crosses the border to Zambia and then over to Namibia.
Nambia?
Yeah, and then he ends up finding some temp medical work there. March of 1997, he decides to apply for a job at the Royal Hospital in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And he's using a false resume because, that's how he gets in everywhere. He's
completely.
He's really good at falsifying documents.
Right. You can't run under your name because your name has already been sullied.
Exactly.
Several names have been sullied.
Exactly. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get this new job in Saudi Arabia. Well, this is where he makes his biggest mistake.
What is that?
He ends up coming back to the U.S. and he's going to fly out of O'Hare in Chicago. So he's waiting at O'Hare to take his flight to Saudi Arabia, and the chief investigator, they were able to track him down at the airport, and they went in and they were like, we still can't arrest him here in the U.S. because we don't have any proof about the killings, so we're still going after him about the lying on a government application. So they go to the airport and they pick him up June of 1997 at a layover in Chicago.
That recently.
Yeah. So he ended up pleading guilty to defrauding the government in March of 1998. July of 1998, he's sentenced to 3.5 years in prison because, again, they couldn't get him for the murder things. He was not allowed to, but there was a condition. At the jail, he was not allowed to prepare or deliver food. And he was not allowed to prepare or distribute medication. Just no. Not even allowed.
That's probably a pretty good precaution.
Yes.
Given what we know.
Right. So they're trying to figure out, how do we keep him in jail? How do we keep him in jail? And they're like, okay, we're going to go after him this way. They found evidence about a death of Cynthia Ann McKee. She was a patient that was treated during his internship in Ohio.
Okay.
He killed her by giving her a potassium injection that stopped her heart.
Oh no.
So the day before he was going to get released from prison for the 3.5 years, on July 11th, 2000, the federal prosecutors charged him with 3 counts of murder, 1 count of assault, false statements, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud.
Enough to keep him tied up for a while.
Exactly. So in Zimbabwe, the authorities, they are also charging him with poisoning 7 patients and 5 of them dying. So yeah, now we got a whole bunch of different people again.
That's right.
So when he was told that he was going to be extradited to Zimbabwe to face the charges, he was like, oh, if they send me there, they're going to, he's going to get
I'm going to end
penalty.
up in Zimbabwe prison.
And he's going to get the death penalty.
Uh-huh.
So then he starts talking. He's like,
I'd rather fight it out here,
right,
stateside.
Well,
yeah.
let's do a plea agreement. Let's not do this. So he ends up getting life in prison about 5 times.
Oh wow!
No possibility of parole. So 5 life sentences.
So he's in, he's in for the rest of his life. But
Yes.
at least he's going to do that and not have the death penalty.
Yep. September 6th, he ended up pleading guilty to 3 counts of murder. He is currently incarcerated at ADX Florence. I don't know where that is. And
I don't either.
they think he has probably killed somewhere between 30 and 60 people.
My word! Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, but they can't prove. And this is how they did not prove this. Okay, so non-patients, like, you know, when he was working with coworkers, like the ambulance people or where, you know, the other places.
Oh, they just died in the ambulance.
Those people, his coworkers never died, but they always got severely sick.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up using arsenic on those people. The patients, the reason why he always got away with it, he mostly just overdosed the patients with what they were already prescribed.
Okay, so yeah, like, all right, well, you're getting, you know...
Or giving them unnecessary prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't using poison on them. He was just
You're getting this for pain, but we're going to give you a little bit too much.
Exactly. So that is what he was...
Wow.
That's how he was getting away with it for so long. Now, I ended up there... This... what was the name of that show? The show on Discovery that I was talking about.
Right.
So that show, they actually had 2 different episodes on him.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is where he was just like, I didn't do it. The second one is where they actually caught him.
You wonder, like, what is the motivation for that, though?
Don't know. Something was very broken in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really enjoyed death.
And like, okay, well, I'm going to, you know...
And they just kept ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
And ignoring it.
And granted, it does seem as though that was a lot of the people that he treated, but then there were people that he treated that he didn't. So, like,
right.
How do you even...
He had a really good personality. Like, I will post one of those shows because there's like a 40-minute show on our Facebook page. And when he talks, he is very nice.
He's charming.
He is super charming. They were interviewing him, asking him over and over during that first interview, like the 10 years before they actually got him for real. And he's like, I didn't do it. He's like, you know.
You don't get through that many years of that without having some kind of charisma.
And they were interviewing this other lady where she lost her husband because he poisoned. I mean, you know, she was in the hospital and he died a couple weeks later. And she's like, when he would come into our room, he was the nicest physician.
Uh-huh.
So
everybody loves him.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Janet.
So that's my story.
That's a story, and oh my gosh, what a good one. I know you said that there was a whole lot
I've been like,
for this week, but I didn't, like, wow.
I just kept reading going, and he's going somewhere else? How does he do that?
Completely.
He was so smart. He just knew how to do, how to get away with it.
I kind of wonder, I'm like, how does somebody get away with this again and again and again and again? But,
personality, smart, obviously knew how to forge lots of things.
I also dated in my 20s, so I understand how sometimes that happens. Oh my God.
That's my story.
Wow.
I know, that one just blew my mind. I'm like, what?
Thank you. Gosh, that was a great story.
Thank you. So you have a nice story for me.
I have a story for you. Well, I don't know if it's
nice.
a nice one. But I do have a story for you.
Okay.
And this is a recommendation. This one is a suggestion from friend of the pod, Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Megan. I know we talk about her like several times, but I was in line at the fish fry last week.
Nice.
And I was talking about how I needed to come up with a story, and so this is going to be dropping the Wednesday before St. Patrick's Day.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I kind of want to do like maybe an Irish story.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be St. Patrick's Day.
Right, yes.
And Megan's like, well, I already told you about this one. And she's absolutely right. So I am going to tell you, this is an Irish Chicago story.
Nice.
About Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin.
Okay.
And I'm excited to tell a Chicago story because, I'm so sorry. I put my dog out of the room. She's come in. Honestly, the best thing that we can do is just leave her
You want to go out here?
near us. Go, Blue.
Go that way. Okay, go ahead.
Anywho, so this is Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin.
Okay.
Megan Cronin suggested the story, and she's like, you need to, if you're going to tell this story, you need to make sure that this is no relation.
Not related.
And we're going to be going to Chicago in a month or so.
Yes, we are.
And so, yeah, like, I thought, okay, Chicago, St. Patrick's Irish story. Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin. He is born in County Cork, Ireland.
Okay, wait a minute. What do you mean, doctor? I just said doctor. How do we do that?
I don't know. He is a legitimate doctor, though. I promise.
Okay. Mine never got out of residency. Go ahead.
Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin.
Uh-huh.
Born in County Cork, Ireland in 1846.
Oh, okay.
He moves as a baby to Canada. I mean, not by himself.
Well,
His family's there.
Nobody mailed him through the postal service like they used to.
That's right. And at age 23, he moves to St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
He studies medicine. He starts out, I think, wanting to work in like nursing or whatnot, and then ends up going for his full doctorate.
Nice.
He becomes a doctor. He sets up practice. Around the same time, he also becomes involved in secret societies.
Oh, okay.
Which are really popular
Yes.
around that time. Typically, they are focused on ethnic groups and immigrant communities as a way for people to kind of find their culture, find housing, find jobs.
Right.
Very, very common at this time. So the one that Cronin becomes involved in is one called Clan na Gael. Clan na Gael, they are split from the Fenians.
Okay.
In the 1860s, they are also eventually kind of associated with the Ancient Order of Hibernians.
Okay.
Which is the group that runs the St. Patrick's Parade.
Oh my God.
Here in St. Louis. They split off because they kind of want independence through force. They're training in the U.S. because they do want independence through force. And one of the things that they want are people trained in explosives.
Oh, okay.
That's not so easy in Ireland. But in the States, we're in the middle of building all of these railroads.
Yeah. Yep.
This is where the shift happens from steamboats and river transport to railroad transport. They also think that they might be able to get some of that sweet, sweet dynamite and smuggle it to Britain.
Oh.
A lot of railroad workers are Irish, so there are a whole lot of pieces that are kind of falling into place. They're also a little adorably naive.
Oh.
So it's secret societies. But some examples. They write messages in invisible ink.
Oh, wow.
Now, do you remember when you were a kid and they taught you how to write something in lemon juice and then put it on the toaster? Like, their invisible ink is essentially that.
Got it.
They also have secret signs to recognize one another.
Uh-huh.
And the big one is that they put their finger alongside of their, like, what is this even? Like, this isn't, like, that's not Santa?
Right.
That is something, they put this finger aside of the nose. It is the most obvious thing to do in public, but that's their secret sign. Also, there are tons of spies.
Oh, wow.
Amongst these secret societies. Because of the railroad connection, Chicago is kind of the center of U.S. operations for Clan na Gael. Because, well, Chicago is where all of the railroads are happening.
Right.
This group is a little bit more open. And in Chicago, Clan Gael is a little bit more progressive, a little bit more militant, although the majority of the members are still ideologically resigned, but they don't really want to be the persons that take to the streets themselves.
Right.
It is kind of a little bit of a pyramid.
Oh, okay.
In that the top members are folks in the professional class. Doctors,
okay.
lawyers, etc. The majority of kind of like the base members, they're typical community members, laborers, etc. In Chicago, there are 3 top dogs.
Okay.
And they're known as the Triangle. There's a man named D.S. Reilly, Michael Boland, and Alexander Sullivan. We're going to talk a little bit mostly about Alexander Sullivan.
Okay.
Which, oh my gosh, every single time I read his name, I think, Alexander Sullivan. And I sing Hamilton songs in my head. Cronin moves to Chicago.
Okay.
Because he wants to be a little bit closer to Clan Gael. He gets a job at Cook County Hospital.
Okay.
Within the Chicago clan, it's really Sullivan that we need to look at.
Oh, okay.
Alexander Sullivan. His background is fuzzy. He shows up in Chicago maybe like kind of right after the Great Chicago Fire.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Also, I think this is coincidental.
Right.
But he shows up in Chicago after being accused of arson in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up right after the fire. All right, well,
okay.
we're going to leave that there because we don't really know anything about it.
Right.
He's almost immediately in a scandal for shooting somebody who had offended his wife.
Oh my God!
He gets involved with Clan Gael. That gets him like community access. It gets him out of the trouble with the whole like I shot somebody that said something nasty to my wife thing. By 1880, he is a key player. And around this time is when Clan Gael really starts to push for more militant action. Sullivan is one of the loudest voices. Sullivan wants a dynamite war, also called the skirmishing. He wants to send bombers and explosives to England to strategically blow up places like the London Bridge, Scotland Yard, newspapers, rail stations, Tower of London, etc. Cronin, Dr. Cronin has moved to Chicago right around the same time. Now that he's in town, he has 2 practices in the area. One downtown, one near his home. He's philanthropic. He donates a lot of his time and services to the poor. He's also active in the church, and he's known to be very talented. Wow. And he's also a really talented singer.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of cute. Like, people love him because he's giving free services to people that can't afford it. Mm-hmm. But he also has a beautiful voice. He's an Irish tenor, no less.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever seen the pirate movie?
No, I have not.
Oh gosh. Okay. There's one sign where, one scene where they bring this guy in and he's like, spare me. An Irish tenor, no less. We could use an Irish tenor, lads. And so that's kind of where they are with Sullivan.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, with Cronin.
Cronin, right.
So the Irish patients that make up most of his practice are in love with Cronin. He doesn't agree with Sullivan. And now we have something called the dynamite plot.
Okay.
So these are planned terrorist attacks in Great Britain. They are targeting the Tower of London, London Bridge, the House of Commons. Spies foil the attempt.
Oh, okay.
We'll figure it out soon. Sullivan raises a ton of money for the families of the people that are arrested.
Wow.
In this failed plot. Sullivan is in charge of the money, but the families don't see it.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Sullivan
boy.
says he's invested the money, but it
Uh-huh.
never shows up.
It's sure invested.
Meanwhile, Dr. Cronin calls Sullivan out publicly, and friends of Sullivan, in particular one guy named Henri Le Caron,
Okay.
we'll get back to him. Henri calls Cronin a spy, like, oh, he's a British spy.
Oh.
Now we have a feud.
Uh-oh. Oh. Now there's a feud. Got it.
Right, so we've got Cronin on one side, Sullivan on the other. This is literally like a Hamilton Burr
Wow.
situation. The clan decides that Clan de Gael is going to have an internal trial, hoping to just sort of squash this.
Gotcha.
Sullivan is cleared. Clan de Gael decides, like, yeah, no, he didn't do anything. And because Henri Le Caron has kind of said, like, oh, Cronin is the spy,
Yeah.
and because Cronin is the new guy, he's kind of more or less kicked out of the clan.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy.
This causes a further divide because a lot of people do side with Cronin. Cronin is Irish born, even though he was raised here. Sullivan is not.
Oh.
After this, Cronin knows he's in kind of a dangerous position.
Sure.
So there's this volatile, influential person, and he's made an enemy of him.
Oh, wow. Oops.
So he warns some people that, like, he's concerned about being a target. In particular, he lets his roommates know. Cronin is living in, like, kind of like where I live right now. It's, it's a multi-family unit.
Right.
So they're not roommates, but they are kind of building mates. Theo and Cordelia Conklin, they share the rental property. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I fucked up. This guy is coming for me.
Oh, no.
Weirdly, though, Dr. Cronin accepts a position to be an on-call physician for an ice mill owned by a guy named Patrick Sullivan.
Oh, my.
Now, he is not related.
The other Sullivan.
He's not related to Alexander Sullivan.
Oh, my God.
There hasn't been any need for one in the past because it's not like people are getting hurt there. But Patrick Sullivan and Alexander Sullivan are friends, and Patrick Sullivan is like, hey, I'll pay you this oddly large amount of money if you'll be the on-call person to take care of anybody that gets hurt at my house.
Right.
Do we need to... Should I stop her?
You're fine. I will remove the toy. Keep going.
All right. So he's also being watched by Alexander Sullivan's people.
Uh-huh.
They're staking out both of his properties, both places where he has, practices.
Right.
One source says that a man was sent to beat up Dr. Cronin, but once he gets there and he's like, all right, well, here's the guy that I'm supposed to kick the crap out of, he recognizes, like, oh, you're the doctor that treated my mother when she didn't have any money.
Oh, okay.
And having recognized Dr. Cronin as the doctor that treated his mom, he's like, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
So he just won't do it. Also, members on Sullivan's side are upset that when everything blew up with the gunpowder plot,
Yeah.
they were like, this is supposed to be a secret society. You're the one that kind of outed us.
Oh, my God.
So, Clan Gael is supposed to be a secret society, and in their minds, the publicity is worse than anything that Sullivan would have done.
Oh, my.
So, they take and they put Sullivan kind of on trial, but it ends up that he is let off the hook. And Cronin is the one that ends up, like, kind of getting booted out of.
Oh, no. Okay.
All right. We're looking at 1889.
Okay.
So this is afterwards. Sullivan is still in good graces. Cronin knows that he's kind of not.
Oh, yeah.
Martin Burke, who is going by the name of Frank Williams, he rents a cottage near the ice factory that Cronin has just agreed to service.
Sure.
He mentions two things. Number one, his brother and invalid sister are going to be moving in. So stuff is coming, including furniture and a trunk. A friend is also going to be coming by for a horse and buggy. This is no big deal.
Right, sure.
May 4th, 1889, Dr. Cronin, he's in his surgery center at his house.
Uh-huh.
Somebody comes up and is like, hey, there's been an accident. We need you at the ice house right away. He gets in the buggy with a white horse. He's never seen again.
Oh, no.
His neighbors, the Conklins, they report him missing.
Mm-hmm.
The head cop, his name is Dan Coughlin.
Okay.
Coughlin, Conkrin, O'Coughlin, like...
Right.
We're going to call him Coughlin.
Okay.
All right. He shrugs it off. He's like, look, he's a grown man. It looks like he just took off. There's no body, no crime.
Yeah, 1800s, people just disappear. Got it.
Calls off the search. Even though Cronin didn't have the majority of his money or his weapon, like his handgun, with him.
God.
So there are a few public theories about this. Number one, he's on the run from a jealous husband.
Oh.
He treated a whole lot of women. So maybe that.
Okay.
Number two, maybe he just left. He's tired of the fight with Sullivan.
Right.
Number three, again, he treated a lot of Irish women. Perhaps he had performed an illegal abortion and he's evading discovery of that. About like 24 to 48 hours later, after he disappears, we find a trunk.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
This is never good.
No, it's never good. It's never good when you find a trunk.
It's never like, oh my gosh, it was full of chocolate and puppies.
No.
It's not full of chocolate and puppies.
No.
The trunk is bloody. It has hair on it. There's no body inside. So, Officer Coughlin makes several statements saying this is probably just fine. And, quote, we're not going to go into this any further.
What?
He has a big press conference to just be like, look, there's a whole lot of other things that could have happened to this guy.
Oh my God.
We're not looking into it. So that is May 4th. Mm-hmm. May 22nd, there are some sewer workers that are called out to address a clogged pipe.
Oh no. This isn't going to go well either.
No, it's actually, you know what? Then they find him just down there in the pipes. Totally happy. He's eating pizza. He's hanging out with the Ninja Turtles. No, I'm just kidding. They think there's a drowned dog in the sewer, but it is not a dog. It is the badly decomposed body of a man, stripped to the waist, multiple blunt force trauma wounds to his head, a towel around his neck, a bunch of scalp lacerations.
Oh my God.
But there is still a holy medal around his neck.
Oh.
Because these are Catholic people and Catholics are superstitious.
Yes, they are.
And you don't take the medal off of a dead man's neck.
Nope.
Because God will punish you.
Right.
So these things help them ID this body as Dr. Cronin.
Wow.
Police searched the cabin 2 days later where Dr. Cronin had last gone to help out. Suspiciously, there is no record of an injured employee.
Oh no.
The cabin is trashed.
Ugh.
Nobody inside. There is blood. There's broken furniture. Signs of a struggle.
Oh no.
There's a Swedish couple that had rented out this cabin again to like Frank or what was his name? Like, yeah. The couple that had rented out the cabin. They are like, oh my gosh. We don't own this place. We're never going to be able to rent this out again.
Yeah, no.
Given what has happened here.
Right.
But there have been true crime fans for as long as there have been true crimes.
Yep.
So this cabin becomes a tourist attraction.
Of course it does.
Thousands of people flock to it.
It's just like Belle's home. Yep.
They come and they take little pieces of wood, little bits of stone, like whatever, because, oh my God, we're touring a murder house.
Just like the Benders.
This couple makes a fortune. Had cars been a thing, they would have sold bumper stickers.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, Cronin is dead. We're still figuring out what happens. But in the meantime, there is the funeral. Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin's funeral. The biggest since Lincoln's.
Oh, wow.
Between 8,000 and 12,000 people attend.
Wow.
It is closed casket because he's been stuffed in a sewer for a week.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to say that they're there. Cronin is now a hero to the Irish community. He's part of the zeitgeist. He's part of not just Irish culture, but like all of the culture. Everybody wants to be there. They line the roads all the way from along Michigan Avenue, from Holy Cathedral, which is where the funeral is held, to Calvary Cemetery, where he's being buried. And all the juicy stuff is just getting started.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. So, arrests are being made. There are 3 in particular.
Okay.
And this is a big, juicy story, and I know that we both have big stories, so I'm trying to kind of push mine along. All right, so I'm going to tell you just the highlights, but there is a whole lot more that I'll get to in my sources.
Awesome.
Dan Coughlin, who's the cop that called off the search almost immediately.
Yeah, that's suspicious.
Turns out he is also a member of Clan Gael, and he's in the same clan unit as Sullivan.
Wow.
And he's also close with the owner of the ice house, Patrick Sullivan, no relation.
Oh, wow.
And he is also the person that hired the horse and buggy.
Oh, my God.
Where Cronin was last seen.
Wow.
And it was a white horse, which was pretty uncommon. So
absolutely.
Easy to spot. Number 2, we have Martin Burke, a.k.a. Frank Williams. He is the guy that rented the cottage from the Swedish couple under an alias. And we have Patrick Sullivan, who is the guy that owns the ice house.
Right.
Also connected to Alexander. Alexander himself is arrested briefly, but he's not kept because in spite of everything, they don't really have any good, solid ties for him. Right. So he's not the person that's going to go down for this.
Wow.
We get to the trial.
Okay.
So it's so hard to find jurors because
everybody knows about this.
Completely
Everybody.
Right. Jury selection, it is the longest jury selection in U.S. history up to this point. They have to... They have to interview over 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
To find 12 jurors.
Jeez, wow.
Because everyone has heard of it.
Absolutely.
So we get to the trial. Basically, the argument of the prosecution is there's evidence of conspiracy. They put forth all of the connections between all of the people involved that we've just talked about.
Right.
Sullivan is the connecting player. The defense is basically, no, they didn't. No proof, no collusion, nothing at all like what we go through nowadays.
Nowadays, what?
Lots of people line up for this trial. They can put 200 people per day in the courthouse,
Right,
to watch the trial, but thousands line up. Like, it is the OJ trial.
yes.
It's that all over again. And the people that line up, largely women, because apparently one of the lawyers, his name is Dan Donovan. I have looked all over the place trying to find a picture. Can't find one. But he was allegedly smoking hot. Smoking hot. And that's why, like, women are like, yes, please, like, get me in the room with Dan Donovan. They bring smelling salts with them because he is so hot that women, like, faint upon seeing him. So, woof. I mean, this is apparently, like, and newspapers are reporting on this day after day after day after day. So this is the trial of the century.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of trials, do you remember a few pages back when I was talking about the dynamite plot?
Yes.
You remember when I said that Cronin was accused of being a British spy?
Yes.
By that guy Henri Le Caron? The Frenchman?
Yep.
Well, across the pond, Henri is on trial in London.
For?
He's not French.
He's not French.
He's not French.
Oh my god.
His real name is Thomas Miller Beach.
Oh my god.
He's a British spy. Like he accused Cronin of being.
He's the actual
If
British
you
spy.
spot it, you got it.
Yep.
No. So Henri is a British spy. He is credited as being the key player that foiled the dynamite plot.
Oh my god.
And sullied Cronin's reputation in the wake of it.
Oh my god.
He's eventually found out, and although he's completely exonerated over across the pond, his career is over.
Sure.
But he was a successful British spy for 25 years.
Wow.
Foiling the Irish.
Wow.
The whole time.
Wow.
So that's just a little aside.
That's crazy.
And we're going along, so I'm going to, like, jump through the rest and, like, just give you what happens to the rest of these players.
Okay.
Patrick Sullivan, Ice House guy.
Yes, Ice House.
He gets life in prison. He dies of tuberculosis in prison.
Ah.
Martin Burke,
Yeah.
a.k.a. Frank Williams, who rented the cottage.
Yep.
He gets life in prison. He dies of tuberculosis in prison.
Oh, right.
Dan Coughlin, the cop,
Yeah.
he gets life in prison, but then later gets a second trial and he's exonerated.
Oh my god.
So he gets out. He opens up a bar. He does that for a couple of years, which is punishment all on its own. He's accused of more bribery.
Of course.
He goes on the run. And then later, many years later, he turns up on a banana plantation in, I think, Honduras,
Okay.
where he dies of tuberculosis.
Oh, wow. Someone cursed everybody
I
to
know!
have tuberculosis.
And then finally, of course, Alexander Sullivan.
Uh-huh.
He disappears for about 6 years. When he resurfaces, he's almost immediately arrested and convicted for jury bribery.
Oh,
Because
wow.
this guy was never straight.
No, not at all.
This guy was never a straight shooter. Yeah. So of note, he funded the defense of all 3 men that were arrested for Cronin's murder. He scraped up money, borrowed money, mortgaged his house, all
Holy
of that
cow.
to do so. So why would you do that unless you were involved?
He was definitely involved.
Mhm. Anyway, Alexander Sullivan, he ends up, yeah, like I said, he he resurfaces and
Sure.
and then we don't really know anything about the end of his life.
Okay.
Henry Patrick Sullivan, our doctor, or Henry Patrick Cronin, rather, our doctor, he is buried in a temporary plot. $5,000 is raised for a statue and a big memorial. When they go to move his body, the money is gone.
Oh, no.
Nobody knows who. Nobody knows why.
Oh, no.
But somebody ran off with the money, and I forgot to show you any of my pictures, but I will send them to you. Anyway, the only thing they have is a small plaque, and it's still there to this day that just says P.H. Cronin.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so, as we are going to be dropping this on St. Patrick's Day week,
yes.
I thought, thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
For like an Irish story of Dr. Henry Patrick Cronin. I don't know why I always want to say Patrick because I think there is somebody known as Patrick Henry.
Right.
Anyway, Henry Patrick Cronin.
That was an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And
That's so crazy.
Well, we're going to take a moment to drink to the Irish
Yep.
and take a little pause, and we'll be right back with What's Nice.
We'll be back with What's Nice. If you enjoy getting muddy with us, here are some ways to help support our podcast. If you have any stories, please send them to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the platform where you are listening. And of course, a good review will help us get new listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments section. Join us on the Facebook group, where we can discuss the episodes and hear your suggestions. And of course, tell your friends. And now let's go back to What's Nice.
Yay! Welcome back.
Welcome back. Now it's time for What's Nice.
It absolutely is time for What's Nice here.
I think I have the first one.
You do.
So I was trying to figure out, this guy has kind of been all over the Midwest and some not. So I just went with Springfield, Illinois. Let's go there, So Springfield, Illinois, I am going to talk about the Illinois State Fair.
Oh, okay, nice. I've never been, but I've always kind of wanted to go.
Yeah. So it is going to be in August 8th through August 18th of 2024. It's every year. So this is the big Illinois State Fair. The concerts that will be happening this year, because they always have really big names at this point.
Right.
Keith Urban.
Mm-hmm.
Motley Crue. Jason Isabel. And Jordan Davis. I don't know who Jordan Davis is. Of course, they have carnival rides. They have car races.
Deep fried Oreos.
Yeah. They have the Department of Agriculture tent where they have, here's the biggest pumpkin. Here's the biggest all that.
Don't they have a big butter sculpture there too?
I think so. Yeah. They have this year they're gonna have a conservation world, where they'll have like a fishing pond and teach you how to fly fish. So fishing classes. So just getting people interested in conservation. They also have a twilight parade, and you can camp on the fairgrounds.
Okay.
I've been a couple of times. I normally only go for a half a day, but you could literally spend the whole weekend there. It is huge. It is so huge. But it's right in Springfield. It's State Fairgrounds, and it's just
I'm there.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm in for it.
Yeah, I want to go sometime.
Fantastic.
I made a short What's Nice because our stories were a little long.
We're a little bit long.
Yes.
I also did have a very short What's Nice, and so because I was in my St. Patrick's Day mode
right.
and taking a look at Chicago and Irish Chicago in particular, I looked for the oldest Irish pub in
nice.
Chicago, and much like everything else in Chicago, there's a whole lot of argument about where is this. But the one that I found was Shinnick's Pub.
Okay.
Debate on the oldest bar in Chicago, the oldest Irish bar, etc. But Shinnick's is in the running, and it charmed me. They are in Bridgeport. They're in South Chicago.
Okay.
They have been there since around the 1880s.
Oh, wow.
Third generation owned since 1938.
Wow.
And I'm going to show you some pictures.
Okay.
You can tell that these are absolutely... What I love about the first picture is that, like, okay, there is a child behind this bar.
Of course there is.
And so then a little bit later, like kind of in the 40s and 50s, you can see that it's... And then this one is more recent. It's always been like that neighborhood bar
Absolutely.
where everybody feels welcome and comes to,
Right.
So looking on their website, what I found that really kind of charmed me about them is that they have two things on their website. They have a Bartenders Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
Where they talk about the people that have been notorious bartenders or
Right.
people that are of note that have been bartenders that have worked there over the last 100 years or so.
Oh my gosh.
And then they also have, and this is what I thought was so sweet, they have a page called Someone You Should Know.
Uh-huh.
And that is where they memorialize patrons.
Oh, wow. Aw.
That have been patrons of the bar over the last, 100 years or so.
Wow.
It's so incredibly tender.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, barkeeps, if you have ever been a bartender, and you are, like you have been, and
Well, no, I just mostly do cashier stuff.
I know, but still.
Yeah, right.
the people that we see and that you serve all
Yes.
the time, they're more than just business.
Right, exactly.
They are people that, like, you get to kind of know them, and you care, and when you lose them, you grieve.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a little bit maudlin, but I thought that it was especially sweet
Oh, yeah.
that this bar
Aw.
kind of takes a moment to, memorialize them.
Right, absolutely.
Even if they aren't people that had a whole lot of family or a whole lot of, like, friends or whatnot. Like, hey, you never know where you matter.
Exactly.
And the place that you just show up
Yep.
on the regular,
People get to know you.
people get to know you. We care about you.
Right.
And you matter.
Awesome.
And also, I should mention that the family that runs this bar
Mm-hmm.
also hails from County Cork, as does Dr. Cronin.
Wow.
So, anyway, yeah,
Okay.
the people that you serve across the bar
Right.
are also important people and people that matter. And for me, that's what's nice here this week.
Exactly. Aw, that's nice.
Yeah. And happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Irish or not, I hope that you have a good time. And we're very glad that you spend a little bit. Again, you only have so many hours in the week, and the fact that you spend one of them with us is very, very flattering to us, and we really do appreciate it.
Very, very much appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is where we end.
We sign off, but as always, we're going to end by telling you to be Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.